Straw Hut Media.
Welcome to another episode of Genuinely GG.
LG.
And Layla.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
You are high.
Trying to get high, actually.
Ugh.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of getting high, this is really interesting. I have a couple of friends, which I can't name, but they did like a whole mushroom trip recently, and they went and got like all these those glow sticks that back in the clubs like we would do like when you're on ecstasy like that, and like stars all over the house. And apparently like it's supposed to do something with lights when you're on mushrooms and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. I thought I did mushrooms when I was like 15, but nothing happened to me. So I think I literally ate mushrooms that were not mushrooms.
From Trader Joe's.
Probably, the shiitake, maybe, because it wasn't magical. Nothing really happened to me. I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't know what it was. But everyone's doing mushrooms nowadays. Everyone's kind of like microdosing and, saying that they're having spiritual cleanses from mushrooms. And my friends are literally saying the next day they wake up, they really feel like 10 pounds lighter, like spiritually, and just they feel good and like with clarity.
I have friends that do something called toad. Have you ever heard of toad?
Oh, yeah. I heard of that. That's what they do back in Peru where they get the venom.
Well, they do it here too. And it's done
illegally?
Everything is illegal. Mushrooms are illegal. Everything's illegal.
Not shiitake.
Not shiitake. Not Trader Joe's shiitake mushrooms. But they say they do it with a shaman. And a shaman comes and it's like in a controlled, an illegally controlled environment.
Like ayahuasca?
No, it's called toad. And apparently it's something from an actual toad. Like
I know that they would get the venom of it, but that's some, man, I'm not.
And they have these spiritual awakenings and all. I mean, I've never tried it. I'm too scared to try any of that kind of stuff, but.
That's some creepy stuff right there. You're going to compare like a spiritual growth of a moment from a magical mushroom that's not shiitake and cannabis to that? Some toad shit?
I mean, to me, they're all drugs.
No, they're not all drugs. They're not all drugs. That's the thing. I smoke cannabis from morning to night. You know that.
And I think you're a drug addict.
Well, you know what? Okay. It's not a drug in the state of California. So in the state of California, I'm just very,
but
very
neither
smart.
is alcohol. Alcohol is legal, and you could be an alcoholic if you drink alcohol from morning till night. You're an alcoholic.
You can be a cannabis addict, which also is very slim because only 9% of people can get addicted to cannabis.
Well, I think you're definitely in the 9%.
I might be.
You are?
I might be.
For sure.
I will admit to that.
Okay, thank
I might
God.
be. But it does not stop me from doing what I need to do all day. I work. I'm up at 5 a.m. every day. No, my son does not wake me up at 5 a.m. He sleeps until 8 a.m. Okay. I'm up. I work. I do all this stuff. I'm happy. I'm not going crazy. I don't have hangovers the next day from alcohol like some people do.
Listen.
Look who took it personally. Look who took it personally. How's your hangover right now?
I drink maybe once a month, if that.
Once a month?
At least less than once a month.
All right. Whatever it is, cannabis is fine. It helps me, and I don't think it's an issue.
Wait, you've heard of hair of the dog, right?
I've heard of hair of the dog. Are you on hair of the dog from your hangover yesterday?
But
is
the
that what's in
reason
there?
you said you wake
Vodka
up
cranberry?
Yeah, from Starbucks.
Yeah, who knows what you put? People put
But
alcoholics
you said you're not hungover in the morning because
alcoholics
the second
will put
you
it
wake
like in a
up,
water
you smoke
bottle,
another joint. So it's like the hair of the dog.
We have Evan Jarschauer here to determine if I'm a fucking drug addict in need of an intervention because I smoke cannabis to help my autoimmune. And I am so happy ever since I have, and I don't punch people anymore in the faces. Let's welcome Evan Jarschauer.
You know her from Shaws of Sunset. You know she doesn't hold back.
That makes sense to why someone that goes through that as a child resort to self-medicating to sort of numb out.
This is Genuinely GG.
Hi, Evan. Welcome to Genuinely GG. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
We have Evan Jarschauer, and he is a professional dual diagnosis interventionist, which we will get into what that means in a second, and a licensed psychotherapist. I'm excited to have you here. Welcome. This is my sister and co-host, Layla.
Hi, nice
Hey,
to
Layla.
meet you.
I'm really excited to have you here because, as you know, even though you are located in Florida, correct?
Well, I'm based in beautiful Boca Raton, Florida, but I work all over the country, all the way from Calabasas to Kansas.
Well, that helps. Then you should know that here in Cali, the laws that we have, a lot of legalization happens here for obviously cannabis. Mushrooms are in the talk all around the nation right now. It's just sort of spreading around. And it's being viewed as medical stuff. So I want to get into that. But before we get into that, I want to talk to everybody about what it is specifically that you do, because I also went to LMU and studied dual diagnosis treatment for addicts. And so I was really excited to get this conversation going, and we could, exchange views on how we see that whole dynamic. But why don't you explain to people what it actually means to be a dual diagnosis professional?
Yeah, sure. So what I do is I work with families that have a loved one who has both a substance abuse issue and a mental health issue. And oftentimes, most of my clients, they have depression, anxiety, bipolar. It could also be pain management issues. And I was doing a little bit of research on you and understand a little bit more about arthritis.
Right.
So they could have the medical issue, they could have the mental health issue. And so oftentimes they're self-medicating with some type of mood-altering substance to try to cope with whatever it is that's going on in their lives. And sometimes that self-medicating behavior ends up taking over. And my job then is to come in and put together a plan of action in a very loving, supportive, and understanding way to ultimately help that person who may be in denial, treatment resistant, not only accept some help, but in a very embracing and understanding way. So ultimately we increase the prognosis, we increase the chance that the person's actually going to buy into the process of recovery. That's pretty much what I do.
Right. And I've tried to do my due research on you as well as I do all my guests.
Hopefully you didn't go too far back.
I tried. I really
Okay.
tried, Evan, and I fell short because there's not a whole lot about you in the further back years of your life. And I did catch you say things here and there in different interviews that I watched of yours about your past helps you be better in your profession. And I would
Absolutely.
love if you would be, if you're comfortable with opening up about what that means.
100%. Yeah. So part of what I do is I'm walking into people's homes all over the country that are sharing the most intimate details of their life, right? And so I've learned that if I'm not transparent and open with my families, then how are they supposed to be open and transparent with me, right?
Right.
With that said, so for me, recognizing that I've had my own issues with mental health and my own addiction issues, and own dealing with grief and trauma and loss, and somehow channeling all of that together into some work that I can do where I feel as though I'm able to take all of my experience, all of my heartaches, all of my accomplishments, and actually help to change people's lives. It's a really cool, amazing feeling to be able to take everything I've gone through. And ultimately, let me answer your question a little bit better. When I walk into a home and the person looks at me and says, "That's great, Mom," or "Husband," or "Honey, that's wonderful. You brought somebody here who's got plenty of letters after their last name, but you have no real life understanding of what I've gone through. So if you don't have any experience and you're all book, then we can't relate and this ain't going to work."
Right.
So I have to be able to join them in that experience, share a certain part of who I am in my personal life experiences, but then also be able to get out of that so we can move forward and get them some help. That's kind of the general understanding of my history in the nutshell.
Right. I remember some of my courses that I took throughout getting my certification for the dual diagnosis treatment. And I remember talking about bias. We had a whole course about, because of our past experiences, are we able to see without bias or treat without bias? How
Yep.
much of your past do you think plays into maybe a bias? Because I mean, we're human. We all tend to have natural tendencies to have a bias based on our experiences. But do you think you move forward more based on your past experiences in your work ethic?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm working with a family, and their loved one has a problem with marijuana, right? And so they're looking at this as this is the worst thing ever in the whole wide world. It's almost satanic.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to meet with the family, help them work through their anxiety that, because of my own personal experiences, I'm able to help them work through their anxiety that this may be part of your loved one's journey in exploring different substances, being social, being recreational. And by doing that and by understanding my own stuff, then ultimately, a lot of cases, the marijuana isn't necessarily the number one issue. It's oftentimes the substance that's used to try to mask whatever the real issue is. And usually it's something related to depression, anxiety, trauma, of that nature. So for me, for example, when I was a little boy, I'll share this with you, right?
Okay.
When I was a little boy, my father took me. I was one of those kids like on the milk carton guy. That was me.
Mhm.
That's how I started out in life. I was 5. My parents weren't getting along. And my mom was going to be getting custody of me. And my dad said no. And he took me to Canada.
Wow.
And I lived there for 2 years under a different name. It's a whole story.
Wow.
Right.
We got to have you back for a
That's
different
dramatic.
I know. Yeah. So for me, right there, my name was changed. I lived in an alias. We came back to America. I went back to being Evan again.
Wow.
But I think at a young age, what that did was it definitely affects you and how you see what is right, what is wrong, what is real. And so ultimately that kind of built up into what helped to become a number one fire inside me. And that was being able to help families in crisis. From an environment where it was such turmoil that my father would kidnap me. And I reunited with my mom when I was around 15, 16. And then in that period of time, my dad passed. My grandmother came to help raise me. So I went through my period of exploration with drugs and alcohol and trying to cope and fit in, and dealing with the depression, the anxiety, and the trauma being separated from mom, all that stuff together. I'm very confident that the work that I do now is what's helped me keep my head together. Because if I wasn't doing this, I don't know what I would be doing. I saw this Inside the Actor Studio with Al Pacino thing.
Yeah.
It was either Al Pacino or Robert De Niro. And Lipton, the guy who runs the show, he said, if you weren't an actor, what would you be doing? And you got a guy like De Niro saying, I'd probably be a waiter.
Yeah.
And with me, I don't know. Maybe I would be a waiter. I don't know. But there's no question that the road that I went down early in my life it helped to bring me to a point now where feel sometimes like I'm on a professional mission to help a lot of families in crisis in a professional, ethical, and understanding way, and breaking through walls and helping a lot of people. And I kind of feel, and when I did a little bit of research on you, I kind of feel like you got that thing going on too.
Which thing?
I feel that there's a certain, like we're in from two different worlds,
right?
But I do feel a certain connection with having a mission, a journey, and a purpose.
Yes.
And that's the basics of my basis of my story.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story. And I love that you shared a little bit of your past, which I've been digging about for you, to find something. That was a really huge story. And that makes sense to why someone that goes through that as a child would resort to self-medicating to sort of numb out, right? That's sort of where it comes from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back,
You can overdose and die on one. You can never overdose on the other.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
It's very true. No one has ever in the history of life overdosed on cannabis to die. Ever in the history of existence of cannabis. Even back to the Egyptian days. It's a little bit tricky now. My son will be 2. Layla has 2 kids. One's 14 and 9, and she's about to go into what I'm thinking about and what my fear is as a mother, that, okay, I smoke pot. I advocate for it on a medical level. I know what it can do for you, and I know what it doesn't do to you, right? We've learned that. Research is showing us that. But because I technically grew up, you grew up, we grew up with it as concept of a drug, right? It's how do we tell our kids when is the right time to experiment, and is it a time to experiment? I don't know. How do we determine this is a good thing? In one state, it's illegal. In the next state, it's not. Yeah. How do you define that? If this is my medicine, but I can't go into Louisiana and have my medicine freely without getting thrown into jail, what do I tell my kid? So it's an interesting dynamic. And now you say you go from state to state. How do you deal with that from state to state?
Yeah. Just so you know, so when I first started out doing interventions, I'm in this now for about 20 years. I've been doing this a long time, right?
Yeah.
When I first started out, the number one drug of choice was crack cocaine, then moved into heroin, opiates, but right now, the number one drug of choice with the mental health issues, there's no question that marijuana is being used by the majority of the cases that I go on where marijuana is being used.
May I interrupt you for 1 second and ask a favor? So can we use the word cannabis or weed or pot? Because marijuana was sort of placed by the government when they made it illegal to kind of contribute it to Hispanics and ethnic people. So that name it just rings a little bit of a bad,
Done.
Cannabis.
I'm getting old. I'm good. I'm open. I want to be modern.
Hey, we're here to educate. We're here to educate everybody. This is just a learning process.
On the other hand, Evan, I believe marijuana, when she said
cannabis.
Weed.
Cannabis, weed.
Yeah.
Is never a time where I want to introduce that to my daughter. To me, yes, it's medicinal, but when do you think medicinal changes to being a pothead and just smoking weed from the second you wake up to the second you go to bed?
But I do that.
I know.
Hold on. When you classify what addiction is in this case, because cannabis does not have physical addiction, okay? And 9% of people only get an addiction to cannabis. You have to be an extreme smoker, probably like me, okay? So I wake up at 5 a.m. By 6 a.m., my first joint is in my mouth. I'm in bed usually by 10:30, which I just had my last joint. And I smoke all day.
And I think that's a problem.
But it's not a problem because it never stops me from waking up at 5 a.m., working all day, being with my kid, taking care of 4 animals, having a TV show for 11 years now almost, other companies, a cannabis company, starting a food truck company.
So
I have a podcast that we're sitting at.
I know, but you're a functioning drug addict. Cannabis addict. Whatever you want to call it.
I'm a functioning cannabis addict, I guess.
And I think we need you, Evan, here for an intervention because it's out of control.
Yeah. Well, I get this conversation. What's happening here right now with you two ladies is what I deal with every week.
It's not happening with 2 ladies. It's happening with one.
With one lady. but not you. I got you. I get this. And so I have no problem using the word cannabis. I'm cool with that. We're good on that.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think to say that there is no medicinal value, anyone that says that there's no medicinal value to cannabis, I think it's very concerning that someone would be that black and white to say there's no benefit simply because it's something that they believe is a taboo substance without having really explored the use, the benefit, and
I totally agree. I believe that it has medicinal value.
However, there's a however that goes along with it. That there are some people that can have a cocktail or two, but there are some people that if you give them one, I'm sure you guys know somebody in your worlds that you give them a 1 drink, 2 drinks, 3 drinks, they're off to the races. And it doesn't stop until they pass out.
I used to be that way for sure.
Well, I saw some of the video, so I got
Evan, I have done rehab a few times throughout my life, each time for different, things that I was going through. My first time was 2005. I did 120 days, but then I was hardcore snorting cocaine and ecstasy, like daily. It was really bad, really bad. And I started from a very young age. So, and then I got good, but then I picked up the alcohol bottle, and then that turned into from a couple glasses of wine to a couple bottles of wine per night, and then it was, I could drink any guy under the table. I would have a whole bottle of vodka, it just got
But
escalated.
you still drink alcohol.
Huh?
You still drink alcohol.
Hardly ever. Maybe once in a blue moon. Like maybe on a holiday, I'll even have a glass.
I saw your Instagram yesterday and you were having
Sake?
a martini.
No, I wasn't having No, that wasn't. That was a strawberry drink.
I saw the Instagram too.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
a strawberry berry. It's a berry drink.
And the sake that overboard on the table.
Are you trying to what's happening here?
No, I'm just trying
when it comes in reference, we can go there on who's the alcoholic.
I don't drink.
Oh, Lord, child, let's not go into this. This is not about you. Oh my goodness. Going back to the conversation, which we were talking about, which is, I wanted to know when you are, okay, let's say someone is, wants to go into treatment. They're living in a state like California, for instance. They have major cocaine or alcohol issues and they want help, but they are actively consuming cannabis. Is this a patient that you would be able to treat?
This is somebody that I would be working to get them into a program because I'm not going to be the counselor working with them individually. I'm the person that comes in when things are chaotic, out of control. They are, with all due respect to smoking cannabis all day long, there are a lot of people that if they smoke cannabis all day long, they will lose their minds.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of people who can't function under that 100%.
Right. There are some people that, perhaps like yourself, that can smoke cannabis all day throughout the day, and they're cool. They're chill. They take care of their kids. They run their business. Everything's fine. In my world, the people that I'm introduced to through the families that are concerned about them, they are smoking pot a lot, and in many cases, they are losing their minds and they're acting irrationally and out of control. And that's the kind of relationship. And I'm going to answer your question in this way, if I may. Like I said, there are some people that can drink alcohol and they're cool. There are some people that can smoke pot even all day long, and they're fully functioning individuals. They're wonderful mothers and fathers. They're cool. There are some people, if you give them just a few hits of high grade THC, good cannabis, whatever the right current lingo is, they're going to lose their minds. They're going to see pink dragons,
right,
and they're going to invite you to ride the pink dragon with them to Vermont.
I mean, that sounds a little bit more like an LSD trip or something like that, but I totally understand what you're saying. I understand it. You know what we are looking at right now, more than cannabis, we're looking at mushrooms becoming federally legalized because it is helping people with severe depression, with so many mental health issues, with no side effects that are being caused by all these antidepressants, because antidepressants, they dull your entire emotional state, and mushrooms only they don't do that. It kind of opens a whole different part of your brain, which we don't have access to typically on our own. So how do you feel about mushroom legalization and mushrooms as a form of mental health treatment?
Absolutely. So in my world, psilocybin, mushrooms, cannabis, it almost becomes like a Roe versus Wade conversation.
Right.
In the sense that, oh, you believe in this, you believe in that. Here's what I believe. This is my personal opinion. If there is an herbal, holistic way to deal with severe arthritic pain, watch this, or major depression, so that you're not taking medications that are also negatively impacting the functioning of your liver and your kidneys. If there's a holistic, natural, herbal way to do that, how could you argue with not doing that? Right? I think that it's about introducing those options, but doing it in a way where it doesn't potentially open the door to a subculture of people that are population that are using the legalization of some substance, unfortunately, to get sick, to stay sick. And so for that reason, I have seen personally cases where people were smoking cannabis. I won't use marijuana. I'm on the cannabis thing. I got you.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I'm growing. I'm evolving. But I've personally seen people that were using it and it was helping them function and deal with issues.
With talk therapy, though, right? I've seen studies, like there's a phase 3 study going on, but they do it along with talk therapy, like in a controlled environment as part of the therapy. Correct.
That's correct. That's the way it should be.
Yes.
That's the way it should be. It, in many cases, doesn't go that direction, but I come in when those potentially holistic herbal remedies start to take over a person's ability to function, because cannabis also has and you probably know more about cannabis than I know upside down.
100%. Yes.
But one of the traits that it does have is the hallucinogenic component to it. And at the end of the day, there are some people that when they use cannabis, that's one of the side effects that they experience that oftentimes is very negative in nature, and it may hold them back from being able to get the benefit from it.
So classification-wise, hallucinogen is not under the classification of cannabis currently. I think it's that comes to mental health, and I think that's what it all comes down to for me. I used to smoke pot as well before I went to rehab in 2005, along with the coke and all that stuff. I smoked a lot of pot, and I did nothing with my life, and I was in a very bad state of mind. I wasn't happy with myself. I'd never worked in my life. I got kicked out of 10 schools. I was arrested so many times. And you know what? It's just, that was my life cycle. So for me, anything I did, whether it be cannabis or coke, I was going to have the same side effect, which was being a drug addict, nothing, just sitting around doing drugs, getting high. I got reintroduced to cannabis actually through my mom, forcing me to, because I take chemotherapy and infusions for my autoimmune disease. And my mom is very holistic and, Eastern medicine. And she said, I found this doctor, a literal doctor, not the ones that you would just go and get a fake card. He was amazing. He unfortunately passed away a couple months ago. We did do a podcast with him. He's amazing, Dr. Frankel, but he taught me the medicine of cannabis, and my whole view shifted. And to me, I was scared at first. I said, I'm really scared to smoke it because what if this leads me back into that other path? But because I'm a logical person, and because my choice theory courses really made me realize everything is my choice, I knew that I'm choosing to do this for my health. I'm choosing to do it for my mental state, my physical state, and all that. It never became something that got in the way of my life actively now. So it's not an issue for me. Mushrooms, I'm freaking out a little bit because I'm seeing everybody talking about, I'm microdosing today. And I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that means at this point.
No, I tried mushrooms twice in my life, and it was the worst experience of my life.
That's a hallucinogen.
And
that is a hallucinogen.
I can't even, like, once in high school and once in the beginning of my marriage. Both times I wanted it to end, and it never ended. So I don't, and I think we both obviously we're sisters. So we come from a family, like, I have severe panic disorder. I've been on medication since my early 20s. And I take, traditional medication, but I can't picture taking mushrooms and being in that state of mind. So
No. It's microdosing, it's controlled, and it's all that. But see, that's another thing, because you're throwing out all these pothead and drinking alcohol things. I would much rather my son be a pothead than popping any kind of Xanax, Vicodins, or Prozacs, or any of that. So if it came down to that,
Absolutely,
I would rather my child be on a herbal remedy than a lab created pill. So
I mean, as long
tomato,
as there's,
tomato.
Well, okay.
One kills you, one doesn't. You can overdose and die on one. You can never overdose on the other.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
It's very true. No one has ever in a history of life overdosed on cannabis to die. Ever in the history of existence
I
of
thought
cannabis.
You were talking about the
even back to the Egyptian
LSDs.
days.
For me, I want more clinical trials. There's so few of them out there. And I believe in the last couple of years, Johns Hopkins and Harvard, they're doing more and more studies on it.
They were not able to study something that is federally illegal. I'm sorry. All the studies are done in Israel and Australia. If you want to look,
but there
into
are
it. Even
studies on
mushrooms,
ketamine, because ketamine is legal.
Well, because ketamine's stolen from labs used for that. That's why you can study ketamine. They don't steal cannabis from a lab.
No, but I'm talking about like mushrooms and
treatment.
stuff. Yeah, like those kind of for mental.
Yeah. Ketamine is being considered as a psychological mental health
because
thing.
It's legal. So they're able, like, doctors are able to not only prescribe it, but also in a controlled environment.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back,
people that are going to be smoking marijuana around them anyway. Cannabis.
Can you leave him alone?
No, I cannot.
No, it's okay. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Don't worry.
How's the Baker Act over there? I know I saw you talk about that, and I know that Florida Florida's the only state that has the Baker Act, correct? Which is the Florida Mental Health Act of 1971, correct?
Correct. It's kind of like your 5150,
right?
But it's more usable, more mental health system usable friendly. In other words, it's where if somebody is in imminent danger to themselves or others, or unable to function independently because of a mental health issue, that a police officer, a licensed mental health professional, a judge can order that person into a hospital for evaluation and assessment. And if used properly, it could be a very good thing. If not, it could be a trap door for somebody with underlying mental health issues that they won't be able to get out of, because the system, once you get in it sometimes and the state takes over, it's very hard sometimes to be able to get out of that system, especially when it's a psychiatrist making a determination whether or not you should stay here for an extended period of time or not.
Do you yourself make this assessment when you do an intervention, or do you are you able to do this?
Do you have to be LPS certified in Florida as well?
This is a great question. It also ties into substance abuse as well and mental health. The answer to your question is yes. When I conduct an intervention, during the course of the intervention, because I'm as a licensed counselor here in the state of Florida, if somebody meets that criteria, not only do I do it, but I have a responsibility. I am mandated to have that person brought in for a psychiatric evaluation. It's a very difficult, it's, taking away somebody's freedom.
Right.
It's one of those things where you don't take it lightly. It's an extreme, but there are cases where you have to do it. So during the course of the intervention, if I'm sitting there and the person is potentially, in the process of hurting themselves, cutting themselves, hurting somebody else, making statements about a bridge that they want to jump off or hurt a child or an elder, I have a responsibility then to say, okay, let's go ahead and get you safe. And then I contact law enforcement. I then provide the documentation that I sign to law enforcement, and they execute that order and then bring the person to the closest receiving facility. It's a powerful mental health tool that we have to work with here in the state, and various states across the country have different versions of that type of order. And in many communities, it also has to do with, community, what the community is willing to accept. Certain communities have a bunch of people that have mental illness that could be in a hospital, but they're not in a hospital. They're out on the street. Some communities don't. It's all about where you feel that the person could best receive the care that they need. And that's why in the state of Florida, there's a lot of people that are Baker Acted.
Yeah.
We also have a Marchman Act too. And the Marchman Act is specifically for substance abuse.
Substance abuse.
The Baker Act provides for 3 days of involuntary assessment. The Marchman Act provides for 5 days of involuntary assessment.
Wow. And is that just for Florida? Is that just for the state of Florida?
It's just for the state of Florida.
We have a 5250, which is a longer than a 72-hour hold here.
Yep. This is specifically for substance abuse. So if you can demonstrate to the court, to a judge or magistrate, that this person is unable to function because of out of control drug use, then a sheriff's deputy could come to that person and then take them to the closest facility for assessment and stabilization.
I think I was in one of those, right? It was, I did like a hospital form of detox, and I remember walking through the halls, because you're only able to walk through the halls. I would see people handcuffed or whatever to their gurney beds. And we were there for 5-7 days.
Was it an involuntary hold?
You guys took me, don't you remember?
When I was pregnant?
Yeah.
I think your psychiatrist that came to the house that time.
They told me I need to go there.
But I think you
like,
voluntarily
I was
went
literally I would drink at least a bottle or two of whiskey to myself every night.
So there's
Wow.
differences here, because I work at a medical practice, then we work in psych as well. So it's not every psychiatrist here. They have to be LPS certified to be able to put somebody under a 5150 or a 5250.
Right. It's a little bit more complicated. Like, for example, in California, it's a higher bar.
Right.
There's more of a rigid system in place. Whereas in Florida, I don't want to say it's laxed, but it's less restrictive.
Well, they do have to be an imminent danger to their self or others, and they have to actually verbalize it. I am going to hurt myself. I am going to hurt somebody else. And then what we usually do, because it happens quite a bit in our nursing homes in the geriatric population, where we call out a PET team, and they will come in and assess the situation. And or the psychiatrist who is LPS certified could write the order, and they'll take them in, or a police officer, over here.
I do want to go back to the questions you asked earlier about when you should talk to your kids about.
Oh, sure. I'd love to hear what you have to. Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
So I kind of see marijuana and alcohol.
Cannabis?
I'm sorry. Cannabis. Apologize.
What's the difference between marijuana and cannabis?
Because it is a racially profiled word at this point. So it's a respect. I'm not trying to have any cancel culture, and I advocate for cannabis. So I don't like the word marijuana anymore.
Cannabis. Sorry. It's a learning process.
I'm learning too, because it's the first time I've heard of that.
It's a thing for 50-year-olds. I think it's a 50 thing.
First of all, you're 3 years younger, and I'm not 50.
When you guys hit the 50 button.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
I'm not there at all, okay? And she's not very far behind me, so.
Oh,
I would love to hear how we
Yes.
have to help our children. Please, you're right around the corner from it, so listen up.
so with that said, I think that alcohol and marijuana similar.
Cannabis?
I'm sorry, cannabis. Sorry, cannabis.
Shut
Cannabis?
up already.
I
All
mean,
right.
come
No,
on,
it's
Evan.
okay. I'm on your show. It's okay. You come on mine, I'll still say cannabis. It's
Okay.
okay. But so I think cannabis and alcohol similar. I think that there are cultures where alcohol use is starts at a much younger age, like in Europe, where it is you drink wine with your dinner. It's part of society. It's part of culture. I think that kids are going to be they're going to have people that are going to be smoking marijuana around them anyway.
Cannabis.
Cannabis. Gosh.
Can you leave him alone?
No, I cannot.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Don't worry. So cannabis. So I think that at the end of the day, you have somebody who turns 21, and in our society, in our world, and they'll have a drink with their mom or their dad or whatever. It is part in certain parts of America or in certain homes. It is something that people do. You have a drink with it. Drink.
Right.
I am in the states where cannabis is legal. Thank you. Thank you. No, it's good. I deserve it. In states where cannabis is legal, I could see a parallel
Yeah.
where this is something that you potentially could share with a family member at their age of majority, if that's something that is legal in that state. I have to word it that way to be very, very
Yeah, I
technically
understand.
clear.
It comes down to the wording. I get that.
But I will also say that there are, and once again, in the world that I work in, and I'm brought in marijuana, cannabis. Cannabis is what the person is using. In those cases, unfortunately, as they try to self-medicate with the cannabis, they become psychotic, they become out of control, and that's when I'm brought in to get them help.
Mental health.
That's, and I also was curious with Layla, correct?
Yes.
Earlier on, I wanted to understand.
Here we go. I know where this is going. All right.
Well, I wanted to understand I thought you were demonstrating concern for Gigi.
I'm gonna light it up.
1 million percent. See, I can't handle the constant smoking.
Okay.
And let's be real. You have a sip of alcohol or a drink. When you have one drink, it alters you a little bit. Your functionality changes. And it's the same with weed.
No, it's
Is
different.
weed cancel culture too? Or can I say weed?
You could say weed. I told you. I gave you permission. for
Weed
that
and cannabis are okay.
Okay.
Yeah, weed and cannabis are fine. Marijuana is out.
Don't
It's
get
out
me
the door.
wrong. I smoked a lot of weed in my day. I mean,
Okay.
a lot. I started in high school and I probably smoked all the way through until I got pregnant. And obviously stopped.
And you forced me to smoke for my
didn't
first time when
force-
I was 11 by
Stop.
holding my head over
Okay.
a bong, plugging my nose and telling
Excuse
me to
me,
breathe.
now you're lying.
Just so Evan can know.
Evan,
even though
she's a
you know,
liar.
Yeah, just so
Evan,
Evan
she's
can
a liar,
understand.
first of
I know
all.
Yeah.
the truth. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
But I did. I didn't force her.
She totally held my mouth over the bong.
I
I was
might
going
have,
to junior high school and I was
Shut
very
up.
young, and she's like,
the
"It's
way
going to
this
happen.
works is if
Everyone
you be
is going to be
quiet
smoking
and let me
around
talk.
you. I want your first time. I want you to know what it is."
Yes. Now be quiet.
It was a lesson.
Can you shut up
Oh,
now?
I'll shut up now.
And
Okay.
I think we're past the statute of limitations on that, so we should be okay.
Yes.
I'm a
Good.
puppet.
So if she's quiet, I could
I'm a
respond. Yes, the first time was with a group of my friends, and I was probably in 9th grade, and she was probably in 6th grade because we're 3 years apart.
Oh wow.
And
So-
I was 11 in 6th grade.
Which I would never do now with my kids. But yes, I used to smoke a lot of weed, and
We
I
smoked
was
different
very
stuff, though.
functional. So I understand what she's saying. Like I felt like I had the greatest ideas. I opened up companies. I ran a huge company with over 600 reps that worked in my organization. I'd get up there and train all these financial advisors right after I sparked up a joint. But then it got to my panic attacks started in my mid-20s.
So we're talking about a mental health issue, not a cannabis issue.
But the weed made it worse. So I would self-medicate, but then I couldn't leave the house because the paranoia would set in. And that paranoia never, ever ended.
That's a strong sativa, girl. You need an indica. Get you an indica.
Okay, first of all.
No, but that's a mental health issue because that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's where you are mentally in your life, because if you can see, cannabis makes people paranoid because cannabis activates a part of our brain that we can't activate on our own. Cannabis can activate it. Most people fear that. Everything is heightened, enlightened. Everything's more amazing, sounds bigger. Everything's funnier. You feel like you've been laughing for an hour, but it's been 2 seconds. Everything is different, right? When you understand the normal to that, the paranoia subsides. But if you have panic disorder that you're not actively getting mental health help for, then yes, anything you have, a drink or whatever, you're going to get weird.
I don't get that weirdness with alcohol. I become social and
that's
outgoing
bad.
And fun.
If you use alcohol to get social, that's bad.
No, I said when I drink, I get more social.
Right, because you can't be social without it.
I am totally social without it. But what I'm saying is,
it's a good thing my
if
plug
I
came
smoke
out, so
some
I can't
weed,
even hear you.
Thank God. If I smoke some weed, I become a hermit. I can't even answer the phone when it rings. I can't do it with people. I'll do it at night. I used to do it at night. After the kids were asleep, I would smoke a little joint, and it was all indica, like not even a hybrid. It was like straight up indica, put me to bed. But I couldn't even answer a phone. Like I could not talk to anybody. I felt like everybody would know that I'm high and the paranoia would set in. So it is just not for me.
Evan, we have determined cannabis is not for Layla, and we have also determined you are awesome for really making the effort to say cannabis every single time. And I do have one last thing to ask you.
Absolutely.
While everybody heads over to your website, behaviorhelp.com.
Thank you.
They could also see in one of your articles that you're going to change marijuana to cannabis.
You got it.
Yeah!
I also have one more question for you. When can I schedule an intervention for this one?
Oh, fuck this stuff, man.
No, that's a good question. So I'm about a week out.
A week out?
I'm about a week out.
Okay.
We just need to get the family together.
We'll get him here.
What? Pull out your headphones there, Gigi.
Yeah, don't listen. Can we get her mic to stop working for a minute as we schedule this?
It's going to be a very loving, supportive event.
I think you're coming into the wrong family for a loving, supporting event.
I saw your intervention to Kim Kardashian, so I'm going to do exactly like Kim Kardashian did, and I'm going to continue to eat my cereal and pretend like it wasn't even happening.
But like you said, you are certified to put in a 5150. Or what do we need?
We got to go to Florida and get a Baker Act. We don't need
the Baker Act, but we need the other act. What was the other act called?
Martyr Act.
Marchman.
No, not martyr. Marchman.
Okay.
We need the Marchman Act like stat.
Evan Jarschauer, thank you so much for being here. Genuinely, Gigi, this has been informative. It has been amazing. It has been fun. And I'm probably going to have to go kick her ass after we end this call.
We'll schedule you for next week. Maybe we can get it on air too.
Maybe we can
fantastic.
get it on air. Yeah.
Love that.
Thank you so much, Evan.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me.
Wow. Well, that was a good episode. I was interested in where that conversation was going. You know what? Hold on.
Shut up, Melissa.
I didn't say anything, Layla. Why do I have to shut up? Oh my God, I blew smoke in your face. I didn't talk. Jesus Christ. That's what you get, bitch. I will say this. I am a little partial to, for instance, magic mushrooms becoming recreationally used because I do know how it can really impact people's brains and it should be more controlled. So with Evan and you guys, I agree that things should be more controlled on the mushroom talk. The cannabis part, I'm still going to stick to my guns. I don't think it has gotten in the way of me performing my day-to-day tasks, my life. It has not made me an angry person or anything.
I think once we have the intervention, that'll all be determined. And, you know, now
I can't wait to hire him and bring him in for you.
You guys, like I said, you know, I think we're changing.
What the fuck are you doing?
Things. Well, you'll see.
Where did you get an L from to put over my G? Why are you putting an L? Don't break my shit. What the fuck?
Welcome to the Genuinely LG show, everybody.
And just like paper, you'll get burned.
She's not combative, right, everybody?
It's Gigi.
LG.
If you guys
Layla.
like this show, the Genuinely Gigi show, please subscribe, write a review, give us a rating. If you don't like it, write it down. Tell us what the fuck you don't like. It's
and
probably
tell us
Layla.
if you like.
You don't like Layla. I get it. We'll figure it out. Okay. But whatever it is, come on, subscribe. We love you. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Genuinely Gigi. Download new episodes every week. And if you haven't already, subscribe. And be sure to leave us a rating and review. And while you're at it, check out some of the other great shows available on Straw Hut Media.